My name's David Metzger. I'm the traffic engineer with the City of Bristol, and we're going to be discussing some of the traffic operations for race weekend here at August at the Bristol Motor Speedway and in the Bristol area. For the August 2012 race weekend, schedule of events, racing action starts Wednesday on the 22nd of August with the Wayland Modified Tour Series race starting at 6 o'clock and the Camping World Truck Series race at 8 o'clock. On Thursday, the 23rd of August, we have the Food City Family Race Night downtown. The State Street and the side streets downtown close at 5:30 in the morning. The actual event starts at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and it runs until 9 o'clock in the evening. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Transporter Motorcade departs Bristol Mall at 9 o'clock. It'll go past Food City Family Race Night. It'll arrive at the Speedway at approximately 10 o'clock that evening. On Friday, August the 24th, we have the Nationwide Series Food City 250. That race begins at 7:30 in the evening. And on Saturday the 25th, we have the Sprint Cup Series Irwin Tools Night Race, which also begins at 7:30 in the evening. Starting with Family Race Night in downtown Bristol on Thursday, this map illustrates the areas where the streets will be closed in a solid black line. This is basically State Street from Volunteer Parkway and Commonwealth Avenue to Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and sections of the side streets. Also, we have the 500 block of Shelby Street between 5th Street and 6th Street next to the post office will be closed as well. You also have certain lanes on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in both Tennessee and Virginia, and sections of Cumberland Street in Bristol, Virginia, where one lane will be closed for transporter parking and support vehicles for Family Race Night. For persons who want to attend Food City Family Race Night and are staying in many of the campgrounds around the Bristol Motor Speedway, there is a shuttle stop system for shuttle buses running between the two of them all day on Thursday. That service starts at 11 o'clock in the morning. It runs until 10 o'clock that evening. There's 5 locations, as shown on this map, in which persons can pick up the shuttle buses. Next to Elevator Tower C, next to the Bruton Smith Office Building, on White Top Road at 11E, White Top Road and Highway 394, and at the Copperhead entrance. All of these will bring the buses to the downtown center in downtown Bristol, and that's where the people can pick the buses back up to come back to the Bristol Motor Speedway area. Transporter Motorcade, this is also on Thursday. This will depart the Bristol Mall at 9 o'clock that evening. It'll go southeast on the Gate City Highway to Euclid Avenue, turn left, go east on Euclid Avenue to Commonwealth Avenue, going past our first fireworks launch site at the Vault Stadium on the way. Then it'll proceed south on Commonwealth Avenue and the Volunteer Parkway towards Bristol Motor Speedway. There's also a fireworks launch site at Executive Park and at the Avoca Little League. Once traffic gets to the intersection of Volunteer Parkway and Exide Drive, the transporters continue on to the south entrance of Bristol Motor Speedway. The section of 11E from Exide Drive to Highway 394 is closed to all other traffic shortly before the motorcade arrives. Their detour route is Exide Drive and Highway 394. That stays in place until the transporters enter the speedway and we get the pedestrians back off the highway. And so there is some congestion in that area. The transporters are scheduled to arrive at the speedway at 10 o'clock that evening. Going to Bristol Motor Speedway, there are 5 signed routes from Interstates 26 and 81 to the Bristol Motor Speedway. 3 of these routes are in Tennessee, 2 are in Virginia. Coming from the Knoxville area heading northeast on I-81, the first route that people will encounter is I-81 exit 57. That's the interchange with I-26. From there they would go east on I-26 to exit 19, which is State of Franklin Road in Johnson City. Go east on State of Franklin Road to Highway 11E. And then go north on 11E and approach Bristol Motor Speedway from the south. All the locations on all these routes where you have turns are all extensively signed so that people can find their way to the Bristol Motor Speedway. Persons who are coming from North Carolina over Sam's Gap on westbound I-26, they would also exit at exit 19 in North Johnson City and follow State of Franklin Road and Highway 11E to the Bristol Motor Speedway. For persons from the south in the Elizabethton areas or parts of Carter County or sections of North Carolina, they can proceed north on US 19E, intersects US 11E in Bluff City, and then proceed north to the Bristol Motor Speedway. Next route to be discussed off of I-81 for people coming from the Knoxville area is Tennessee exit 66. This is State Route 126 next to Sullivan Central High School. From there they'll go east on Highway 126 to its intersection with State Route 394 in Blunnville, and then follow State Route 394 east to the Bristol Motor Speedway. Third route coming off the interstate in Tennessee is Tennessee exit 69. This is State Route 394. Traditionally, this has been one of the heaviest traveled of all the routes. Persons who get off the interstate at exit 69 will go east on State Route 394 to the Bristol Motor Speedway. Coming in from Virginia, for people who are coming south on Interstate 81, They can get off the interstate at Virginia Exit 3 in Bristol, Virginia. This is Interstate 381, which turns into Commonwealth Avenue and then Volunteer Parkway and approaches Bristol Motor Speedway from the south. If you're coming this route and you want to get on the Highway 394 side, like towards the dragway entrance, you can turn left at Weaver Pike, go south on Weaver Pike, and pick up State Route 394, and that'll bring you into the east side of the Bristol Motor Speedway. Again, all these routes are extensively signed in the field. The fifth route coming in off the interstate signed to Bristol Motor Speedway is at Virginia Exit 17 in Abingdon. This is Virginia State Route 75. This route would bring you south on State Route 75, crosses the state line, automatically turns into State Route 44, brings you in on US 421 to the traffic signal at 394, and from there you approach Bristol Motor Speedway from the east. Some of the traffic operations that we do around the Bristol Motor Speedway, once you get into the Bristol Motor Speedway area itself, for pre-race traffic. Along Volunteer Parkway and Highway 11E, there are pre-race median closures. And what we'll do is we'll take the median openings and actually physically close them when traffic requires us to do that. That is no earlier than noon, but what time it happens depends on traffic conditions at the time. When we do it at the Exide Drive traffic signal, the traffic signal will be turned to flash mode, and we'll close the median opening, and then there's no left turns in any direction. Sweet Knobs Trail, this is the frontage road along Highway 394 from the Copperhead entrance, and it runs east from the Bristol Motor Speedway area. Early on Friday morning, this will be converted into a one-way eastbound roadway only, and it'll stay that way through the end of race traffic. Some of the other things that we do, they're looking at the Blundville community at the intersection of State Route 394 and Franklin Drive, which is traffic signal, is at a certain point on Friday when the traffic requires it, is we block off sections of Franklin Drive so that there's right turns only from Franklin Drive onto Highway 394. We set the traffic signal in flash mode, and this basically becomes a non-intersection. So motorists on Franklin Drive cannot cross 394, and they cannot make left turns onto 394. Persons who need to cross 394 need to do it at Highway 126, which is just north of here. Some of the other features of pre-race traffic that the motoring public will see is Bristol Motor Speedway operates a commercial radio station network. For the pre-race traffic on Saturday before the Cup race, there will be traffic updates to bring people up to date in case we have to do traffic diversions because of a crash or something like that. We always encourage people to leave early for Bristol Motor Speedway to allow extra time for passing through the security checkpoints. There are checkpoints as you enter the stadium where they're checking backpacks and coolers and things like that. For people who have firearms, no firearms are permitted on the BMS campus. Even if you have a carrying permit, you will not be permitted to bring your firearm into the Speedway. Security requirements also require that any illegally parked vehicles are promptly towed away that are on the Speedway campus itself. Once the motoring public arrives in the general area of Bristol Motor Speedway, we do have an extensive set of no parking tollway zones. This includes the medians of the major highways and includes shoulders in many locations on Highway 11E, Volunteer Parkway, Highway 394. In some areas, it also includes the grassy areas beyond the shoulders. Usually that's because there either is terrain issues or it might be a preset helicopter landing zone in case we have to do a medical evacuation of trauma patients. All of these areas are clearly marked with signage as towaway zones. If your car is towed, the impound lot is established at the fire station on Exide Drive. This is about half a mile northwest of the Bristol Motor Speedway. The cars are towed there until the end of all the race traffic, and then at that point, if they're not reclaimed, they go back to the wrecker's home lot. For people who are parking out on the highway in the grassy areas, no camping is permitted on public right-of-way. You can day park, but you cannot camp overnight. For persons who require handicap parking, if they have the appropriate license plate or placard that's issued by the state, there is a limited amount of handicap parking on the Bristol Motor Speedway campus. We strongly encourage people to contact the Speedway to reserve one of those spaces. Even when you have the reserved space and you have your license plate or your placard, once you enter the campus, you will be required to show the proper documentation that you are the person for whom that license plate or placard was issued. You didn't borrow somebody else's car just so that you could park closer to the Speedway. If you do not have your documentation, you will not be permitted to park in a handicapped parking space on the Bristol Motor Speedway campus. One of the other things that we've done for a number of years is what we call Park Smart. And what we ask people to do is when they're trying to select where to park when they come to Bristol Motor Speedway is plan ahead to select a parking location so that you're pointing back towards wherever it is you're leaving afterward. For instance, if you're going to be heading south after the race, we want you to park in a parking field or a campsite so that you're on the southbound side of the highway, so that you're only either going straight or making right turns as you depart. In a lot of locations, left turns and U-turns are going to be prohibited. If you park on the wrong side of the highway, you may have to go 1.5 miles through race traffic, turn around, come back down the highway again, and you haven't really made any progress. You're back to where you started, you're just on the other side of the highway. By planning ahead and parking in a spot where you've thought ahead and parked accordingly, it saves you a lot of congestion, saves everybody else a lot of congestion, and just makes the whole race travel experience a lot easier. Business operations around the Bristol Motor Speedway, on the public right-of-way, there is no unauthorized signage or traffic direction. There's usually approximately 200 different campground and parking fields operating around the Bristol Motor Speedway. Persons are not permitted to put signs up saying, hey, park here in the right-of-way, or to jump out in traffic with a placard saying, hey, park here. All that has to take place off the public right-of-way. And for the same reason, for looking at traffic safety, we do not permit business transactions on public right-of-way. We do not permit people to jump out into traffic because they're selling t-shirts or something like that. It's a highly dangerous thing. All business transactions need to take place off the public right-of-way. The persons who are doing business need to have the appropriate business license, depending on what jurisdiction they're in. For a number of years, the City of Bristol has had an ordinance in effect that prohibits the sale of admission tickets for greater than face value. That ordinance is still in effect and is enforced. For local traffic that is not going to the race, we also have some suggestions for them as well. For instance, if you're in Johnson City or Bluff City and you want to go north on Interstate 81 and you need to travel during the race travel periods, we do have an alternate US 11E route signed that instead of going past the north and south entrance of Bristol Motor Speedway, you can go east on State Route 394, follow the signs, it'll bring you out on Interstate 81 at Virginia Exit 5, which is Lee Highway. If you have to cross a race traffic route during those peak periods like Volunteer Parkway, Commonwealth Avenue, Highway 394, cross it at a major signalized intersection. There are going to be times, especially after the races, to where we are manually operating traffic signals, and so eventually the side streets will be allotted some green time to cross. Some of the smaller traffic signals may be operating in flash mode after the race, so we always encourage people to cross at major locations like Highway 126 in Blundville, Euclid Avenue in Bristol, Virginia, State Street in Bristol, Weaver Pike in Bristol, Tennessee, because those major intersections will have the signals operating. And as always, expect delays during peak traffic periods, especially after the race is when you see the greatest concentration of vehicles. Leaving the Bristol Motor Speedway, once again we have signed routes that are leading from Bristol Motor Speedway to both of the interstates, Interstate 26 and Interstate 81. There are 9 routes leading to those routes. Once again, starting with going to the south, if you're heading out of Bristol Motor Speedway heading south, going through Bluff City to Johnson City, you reach I-26 at exit 19, which is the State of Franklin Road interchange. If you're heading towards Knoxville, you would go west on I-26 to I-81 exit 57. There's where you get on I-81 and head towards Knoxville. If you're heading towards North Carolina on I-26 going east, you'd use the same route heading south, get on at exit 19, and that'll then get you to Interstate 26 heading east and over Sam's Gap to North Carolina. Persons who are heading south on 11E going to the Elizabethton community, they can turn left at the traffic signal at Highway 19E in Bluff City. This traffic signal will be operated manually by the Tennessee Highway Patrol during peak traffic hours, and so they can take US 19E all the way to Elizabethton. For certain areas coming out of Bristol Motor Speedway, namely the south entrance or westbound White Top Road out of some of the campgrounds, they'll have access to the Highway 11E contraflow lanes. What that is one of the northbound lanes on 11E from the Speedway down to about Egypt Road is reallotted as a southbound lane. And so all the median openings in that section are closed, so there's no U-turns and no left turns. Once the cars get down to just north of Egypt Road, then they're blended back into regular traffic. And so that allows us to control traffic in a much better fashion. So along that section, there are no left turns, there are no U-turns. Do not cross the median to get from one side of the highway to the other. Both lanes are going to get there at the same time. Crossing the median is illegal and dangerous, and it is not permitted. For people who are heading west out of Bristol Motor Speedway on State Route 394, we also operate a contraflow lane. In this case, it is the center two-way left turn lane. That is allotted as a westbound only lane. That is set up just about as the race starts. That traffic will go to Blundville, turn left at Franklin Drive, and then left again onto Highway 126. They'll get to the interstate at exit 66, which is the Sullivan Central exit. The other 2 regular lanes of State Route 394 heading west, they'll continue straight through in Blundville, and they'll get on at exit 69. This is one of the heaviest traveled of all the race routes. For certain parking and camping fields that are on the southbound side of Volunteer Parkway, certain areas of Exide Drive or in the Bethel Drive area, they can proceed north on Carden Hollow Road to State Route 126, head east back into Bristol, and that'll then go west on 11W, and that'll bring you out at Tennessee Exit 74 next to the Bristol Regional Medical Center. Heading north out of Bristol Motor Speedway, go north on Volunteer Parkway, Highway US 11E, and Commonwealth Avenue. That'll get you onto the Interstate of Virginia, Exit 3. Along this route, after the race, traffic signals will be coordinated manually. For persons who are on the State Route 394 side, heading east from Bristol Motor Speedway, they have two choices how to get to the Interstate 81 going north into Virginia. They'll all go to the traffic signal at US 421 on the southeast side of town. They can turn left, follow the signs along US 421, eventually Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and Lee Highway. That'll bring them to Virginia Exit 5 on Lee Highway. If they turn right at that traffic signal, they'll go east on 421, get to State Route 44 in Holston Valley. That'll eventually bring them to Abingdon at Exit 17 in Virginia. Persons who are on the east side of the Speedway on State Route 394 and need to go to Johnson City or Elizabethton or North Carolina, southbound Highway 11E is a very congested area, so for them we have two routes signed, one of which starts at Vance Tank Road, the other one which starts at Weaver Pike, goes south on Weaver Pike and through the Chickey Pen Grove community, comes out on Highway 19E at the Sullivan County, Carter County line and goes into Elizabethton. From there, to get to Johnson City, they can go east on US 321. That brings them out at I-26 at Exit 24. Some of the features that people will see for traffic around the Bristol Motor Speedway area itself, post-race, is at the interchange of Highway 11E and State Route 394. The northbound on-ramp and the southbound off-ramp are closed after the race. This is to relieve congestion at the bottom of the ramps. Along Highway 11E from Exide Drive to White Top Road and on the Highway 394 entrances to Bristol Motor Speedway, there is a pedestrian hold that starts as soon as the race ends, lasts typically up to an hour. How long it lasts depends on traffic conditions. In these pedestrian holds, all vehicles are stopped. This allows us to take the pedestrians across the highways in greater safety. Once the pedestrian traffic thins out, then the vehicles are permitted to proceed. Exide Drive, this is the third contraflow location that we operate after the race. From Volunteer Parkway to the battery plant, both lanes go west. So persons who are at the battery plant or in the Carden Hollow area or out on 394 end of Exide during and after the race, there is no access to Volunteer Parkway going down Exide Drive. That movement is not permitted. Along Highway 11E and Volunteer Parkway from Bristol, Tennessee Essential Services to just north of Egypt Road, during and after the race, all median openings are closed. No U-turns are permitted, no left turns are permitted along this stretch of highway for several miles. This is to allow for turning movement control after the race and the contraflow operations on Highway 11E. Turn restrictions after the race. For persons who are using the Exit 74 route, they going north on Carden Hollow Road, they get to State Route 126, only can turn right. They cannot turn left towards Blundville. They have to go right because if they go left towards Blundville, that stream of traffic interferes with the other traffic going in Blundville. And there'll be Tennessee Highway Patrol will be stationed at that location to make sure you turn right. Persons who are going west on Exide Drive to get to State Route 394, they have to turn right. Left turns going back towards 11E are not permitted. For motorists who are coming out of the Copperhead entrance, the Dragway entrance, or White Top Road, after the race they are required for the first several hours to head towards US 421. From there they can either go to the Exit 5 or 17 routes to the interstate or take the Chickey Pen route to get to Elizabethton and Johnson City. For persons who are bound for Exit 7 in Bristol, Virginia, a very popular post-race destination, there are several tips we would like to pass along. If you're heading west on State Route 394 or north on the Volunteer Parkway and Commonwealth Avenue and you're traveling north on I-81, do not wait all the way to Exit 7 to exit the interstate. Instead, we want you to get off the interstate at Exit 5, which is Lee Highway, and take Lee Highway to Exit 7. This helps reduce some of the congestion in the Exit 7 interchange at the bottom of the ramps. If you're on the eastbound side of State Route 394 east of the Speedway and you're going to Exit 7, take the Exit 5 route, which means when you get to the 421 traffic signal, turn left, follow the signs to ID1, but instead of getting on the interstate at Exit 5, stay on Lee Highway and that'll take you to the Exit 7 area. Traffic control for race operations extends far beyond Bristol and the immediate Tri-Cities area with the traffic loads that we have. This particular slide shows Some of the agencies that deal with race traffic directly, both at a city, county, and state level in the states of Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia. Plus we have a number of federal agencies that are also involved in traffic, because our traffic operations include not only vehicles, but it also deals with aircraft and helicopters, and all of that is done together as a combined system for operations of traffic. We also have several federal agencies that assist in this operation. With that, I'll bring this presentation to a close, and thank you very much for your attention.